Echo Essentials podcast.
I'm Dave Dale.
And I'm Chris Piekarski. And today we have Jamie Lowery on to the show, talk about the ward system, talk about all different kinds of things regarding the city, looking at the city council level, the voting of it all. Before we get to any of that, I'd like to thank our title sponsor of today's show, Source for Sports.
Spring is here, and that means one thing. Baseball is back. At Source for Sports North Bay, we're proud to be part of every pitch, every catch, and every moment that brings our community together on the diamond. Whether it's outfitting little leaguers for their very first game, helping local teams suit up for the season, or simply sharing the love of the sport, we're here for it. We're more than just a sports store. We're neighbors, coaches, teammates, and fans. And we're proud to support the leagues, schools, and families who make North Bay's baseball scene so special. Wherever your sports journey takes you, make sure you visit Source for Sports North Bay at 1321 Fisher Street so we can help you along your way.
All right, Dave, let's talk about the topic at hand today, the ward system, or I guess rather the lack of implementation of a ward system, because we had Jamie on today to talk a bit about the process and recently how the investigation or the inquiry was shut down. And so today, the episode talked all about that.
Well, new Councillor Jamie Lowery is 2 years into his term, and it's great to hear him talk about what he's observing on council and what people said and didn't say or didn't do after they got elected, which is going to be really kind of interesting. But yeah, no, it was great to be able to sort of hash out some of the ideas and values, the pros and cons of the ward system.
Yeah, and I think
a discussion that should have happened more thoroughly at council, some people believe.
Some people believe that for sure. I think, and I was very candid in the episode to say, I'm not knowledgeable about this topic. I feel like many others aren't. I'm here to get more informed. And I walked away feeling pretty informed. Mm-hmm. You're going to press me for an opinion. I don't have one yet. I know you, Dave.
What did you find most interesting? The fact that the ward system can be anything you want it to be. It doesn't have to be strictly one person from each ward. That it could actually be such a hybrid that it fits each community individually. That
you're asking a guy what his favorite ice cream is. I don't have a favorite. I think for me, the idea of entertaining the idea is the best thing, and obviously that's not going to happen, but. I think the fact that it can be anything or can be kind of unique, from what I understand, it can be a little more customized, as they would say, is appealing because whether or not, and we talked about the number of councillors, we talked about the specific wards in the show, and we'll let that be a bit of a tease for what, Jamie tells us and what he's sharing his opinion on.
Well, he explains why he thinks 6 is a better number than 10, and that's kind of cool, right? His explanation for that makes sense for him.
Giving away how the sausage gets made here.
Well, but that's the discussion. It went all the way around the idea of what's the best municipal representative for a city or a big town, like North Bay.
And we do talk about that. We bring up some data from about 2018 from AMO or AMO for short, regarding what cities in Ontario or similar populated cities like North Bay have done, is doing, what kind of, hybrid they might be using. And the hybrid model is less frequent. It is more rare. But I think it gives you the possibility to kind of tinker and tailor and make it what you want. Right. And I think just entertaining the idea of hearing what that could look like, for me, I was like, yeah, well, why not? We're not going to get into, financial specifics about all of city council because I don't have the budget in front of me. But for me, the idea of entertaining it at the value in which they estimated, the figure of the $20,000 to $50,000, that should be fitted in somewhere because they can, assess how we could best represent the city of North Bay.
Well, it's interesting that people talk about it before an election and then immediately decide not to do it after the election. It's been happening for 20 years that I've been covering city council. There's got to be a reason that I have not found yet that explains why they don't want to have a serious discussion, some research about it, and actually propose some ideas for this and see what the public has to say. They just kind of want to skip over that part do their own little research. The city staff didn't do the research, and now all of a sudden, next election, it's going to be a topic again because it hasn't been put to bed.
I do. I don't know. I find irony, I guess is maybe the way to put this. That we talked about in our federal election coverage about how like our area here in Nipissing-Temiskaming federally, but North Bay as a city, kind of somehow often reflects the federal thing in terms of talk about electoral reform federally. Well, that was kind of like a small, very small last minute discussion in this federal cycle, but isn't brought up for years federally. And now I was talking about the ward system, how that can change and how that might change electoral reform for us locally here. And it gets brought up every electoral cycle. So 2026 is going to be interesting because you say it's going to come back up again. I think that's a safe bet.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a safe bet.
Safe bet. Because they haven't really put it to bed for real.
It's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I'm really keen, and I've already kind of given it away that we're going to put this as the poll for this week's newsletter. And obviously tell us in the comment sections if you're not subscribed, but you should be. Anyway, what you think about this, if you have an informed opinion, what you're leaning on, if you maybe learned something from this episode, share with us what you think, because we'd love to hear, because, we're in our own little, we call it vacuums, in our own little echo chamber here. That's perfect. We have to call this the echo chamber.
Yeah, there you go.
Not literally. But like we talk about, our opinions and thoughts, and we read and listen, but for this kind of thing, like it's gotten some comments, it's gotten a little bit of pickup in the media cycle, but I don't think in terms of city council stories, this got as much, pickup. I don't think it got a little bit, but it didn't feel like it got the same kind of attention as like I guess an infrastructure development story, like the Twin Pads or anything else that would be in a bigger scope. And obviously it's probably because it's a smaller number, but it wasn't talked about this much. It kind of got lost a little bit in the news cycle. That maybe was because of the election, but it did get a little lost.
Well, to quote one of the best UFC fighters, Mr. Diaz, I'm not surprised. MFs.
Dropping that Nate Diaz?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. You know what quote I'm talking about?
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's a post-fight press, or not even, that's in-ring post-fight McGregor won.
Yeah. No, that's when Nate won.
Yeah, didn't he win McGregor won?
Yeah.
He lost McGregor too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was McGregor won.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, you're not surprised.
I was thinking WON or ONE, right? So he won.
When he won.
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah, spelling's tough.
You're too quick for me.
I try. But, yeah, I mean, interesting. I mean, I think 2026 municipal election.
But you don't have to be informed. Throw some spaghetti on the wall like I was doing with Jamie.
Sure.
And pick your own, what you think would be best for representation at municipal council. What would be really ideal for a city like North Bay? Just what do you think? Like where would the wards be? Why?
Yeah.
And how many? And what's the best way to function so that you have a more engaged voter populace and that people think that their vote counts for something?
Yeah, and I think for me, being like this is my first municipal city council episode that I was on mic for. I've watched all of them, of course. For me, it was nice to kind of just have that interaction with the city councilor, right? For me, transparency, representation, accountability, it's very important for me, right? And having, Jamie thankfully take the time to come meet with us. And just for the record, we should probably declare this as well. We invited all city councilors to come on, including the mayor. And we got, feedback from, a lot of them actually that they couldn't make it or they would like to make it. And so based on the timing of our production timeline, Jamie was the one who we selected to come in. And he was great. I think he came in, he was very open and transparent and very patient. He obviously, has an opinion, but he wasn't really leading with that all that strongly. He was like, why can't we just talk about it? And I like that.
Mm-hmm. And that's basic where it comes down to. We're going to talk about it for another 20 years if we don't actually go through the exercise of studying it specifically for North Bay and then making a decision to somehow better represent so that people feel that this isn't needed or implemented, one or the other.
I mean, the thing that he brought up was interesting, and I'm going to turn this around back on you, Dave, because it's fun that way, is that he introduced the idea, or maybe it was you who introduced the idea of the ward system being an opportunity to kind of get those who couldn't campaign to campaign for a region because they would only, campaign in that region or that ward. Which would be cool. You kind of see other people kind of come out and support those who might be on a smaller budget or might have a really passionate project for their community, their neighborhood in the city. My point is to you, being so involved in city politics, have you never ran? You've never run for city politics?
No, I talked about it for before the last election. Well, as a journalist, you kind of have to make a decision. Are you going to be a politician or are you going to be a journalist? And for the 2022 election, I decided I wanted to keep being a journalist and be able to have my voice there instead of on council. Yeah, so I did consider it for a year. I wrote about it almost every other column with Bay Today when I was doing it, and then I decided that it wasn't right for me that time, for sure.
You don't have to give it away. But is 2026 going to be different?
Well, yeah, maybe.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. Well, you heard it here first.
Yeah. Well, if I give it
potentially
any serious consideration,
yes,
I'll let people know so they can judge what I do in between there and my decision, so that they'll know that I'm considering it again if I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think any journalist should do that, like at least a year out, to make sure that what they're doing isn't construed as campaigning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've had again, like we talk about the generational, assuming of the responsibility and talking about, how about my generation, I'm 33 years old, getting involved more in municipal politics and city council and what that looks like.
I didn't think you were a day over 31.
Thank you. You also note that I healed really well in a week. It looks like the whole hat thing was a ruse. There's no hat gate. I did get hit in the head.
You still have a bump.
Do I? I think it's my skull.
Just one.
Just one big one. But I think episodes like this and topics like this are a really great way to kind of engage the next generation to say like, okay, well, if I'm going to, set roots in North Bay in the area, how am I going to connect with my city council? How am I going to get accountability from that? Is there a future with me in politics, or what that future would look like for my future? And conversations like this kind of spark that, I think. And I think it's good for all of us to kind of engage in that topic.
Yes, for sure.
So anyway, it's a good one. I think we're going to toss it up.
That's how we get arenas built.
What a pest. That was last week's episode where you'd be the pest today. But so thank you. For listening, obviously. We're going to throw it to us and Jamie in a second. And we hope you enjoy the episode. Today, we have City Councillor from North Bay with us, Jamie Lowery. Jamie, how are you today?
Great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, appreciate having you in. Today, we're going to talk about something that's been on, I guess, the North Bay political ecosystem radar for a long time, and especially a little bit lately, the integration with the ward system. Before we get to that, though, how you been? Talking to the community. How what's going on with you right now?
Well, I'm actually I'm hearing from a lot of people that I don't know that have said, thank you very much for trying to advocate for this point. And I guess there's, as we spoke earlier, it's something that's been on people's mind it comes up every election, and something people are genuinely interested in from the feedback that I'm getting about it. And I guess my point is, why not look at it?
Fair enough.
Were you surprised with the decision at council with staff not following up with the direction? Did any of this surprise you?
Truly, not really. But what does kind of I checked in early through another councillor. I was like, where are we with this item? And my understanding, almost a year before this, is that we were working on it. There was going to be something coming forward, and I think what happened was. Councillor Inch and myself had said, well, let's get everything else that's on, because typically what you look at is the things that go to committee are go there to die. And I think the mayor even might have said that it's a place where things get buried. Councillor Vrybosch might have alluded to that as well. But I just want you kind of lose track of what some of the things are that are discussion. And some people say, you could have just called the clerk, and I go, yeah, well, but I'm really big on letting people know and the transparency part. So we push to get that list public, like what's sitting in the, and then all of a sudden, without virtually without warning, there's a committee meeting, about a ward system. So there's no report. There's no, we talked about a couple of things that were sent to council or to committee, and I think why people were kind of a bit surprised about that dialogue without the benefit of everybody being on the same page with some kind of report about what's gone on. So, but at the vote itself, I was a little bit surprised, considering that prior to the election, that a lot of people were in support of the ward, and at least one member of council was going to be the champion of that issue, and so the fact that it kind of got without any real meaty discussion or debate, and we seem to get hung up on this $20,000 to $50,000 that was going to cost, and then we learn now that we're out of time. Which, from my research, we could still potentially do it, but it'd be very, very tight to get it done. So the fact that it got 9-2 was not overly surprising.
Yeah, basically, he got killed.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Slaughtered. Well, I've been covering council for 20-odd years, and
Yeah.
I've seen this discussion. So maybe my disdain for the situation is unusual because I've been
Amplified,
frustrated.
perhaps?
I like it's good fodder, right? But it's never been completely studied. It's always been half-assed, looked at, half discussed. So I was hoping for...
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of a bit of the history of some of the issues that I feel at councils, that we don't explore things. We don't do a fulsome review of some of these things. I mean, I go right back to our former topic, which is things like the rink, the pro forma for that. What are we doing with that? And
Is there a business plan yet?
not that I know of.
Okay.
But and there's some other decisions that are happening. And it's a bit of a head scratcher, and I guess that's where I struggle, is because I really look at evidence-based decision making, and feelings are good and nice, but when you're talking about spending other people's money, I'd like to know that there's going to be some value there.
Yeah, I don't think I share maybe quite the same historical, I don't say vitriol is the wrong word, Dave, but maybe the same kind of...
History, maybe.
yeah, I mean, that's probably fair. I think just because,
Well, let's tell the truth. You really don't care.
no, it's not even, truthfully, it's not a big sticking point for me, mostly because I probably just don't know, right? I mean, because ultimately it hasn't been an issue for me as a North Bayite, as long as I've been as a person who can elect, who can vote, right? So for me, there's a lot of educating myself, which is in terms of the pros, the cons, who does it, who doesn't do it. How long has North Bay been flirting with the idea for? It seems like
forever,
time immemorial, essentially. Yes. But I mean, it's interesting because it's the function of just entertain the idea, and I know it's really fun for some people across the city to kind of criticize what the city spends money on. It seems to be a lot of people's habits and interests, but to me. And again, we'll get to the timeline in a minute here for those who aren't maybe caught up to us. The number figure, it doesn't seem that much just to look into it. That's my opinion, is it just seems like something that it's not even so much implement it or to change the system, is to investigate what that would look like.
Well, we could have made it a centennial event because there was money for that.
We're not sure where it's all being spent, though.
That's right. No, but you're right. I mean, you look at the comparison, some of the things that we do spend money on, and just to give it a good look. And I think the crux of changing the governance of North Bay, and this is what a bit of a surprise to me, was it really is the foundational piece is a community conversation. It's about community engagement. I mean, there's a whole host of ways to get people's views on what they would like to see, and because based on the act, there's really not a lot of rules. It's basically a minimum of 5. That's a non-appealable issue with the land local planning tribunal, appeals tribunal, but. The creativity or what you could do is really up to the community. So that would have been a great conversation. So that kind of knocks the wind out of, we'd lose some, good councillors or whatever. Well, what if you did 2 per ward? What if you did, some that are part-time and some that are full-time? What if you did, there are
You could keep
endless...
10 councillors, have 2 and for each of 3 wards, and then 4 at large and the mayor at large, right? The options are endless.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many things that were available to us that could improve, and I guess to me, it really is about effective representation. Like, is it the most effective? Well, yeah, you're getting by and you've never had a problem, but to know that person, you can call them, or that's they're elected to look at that area or to look at their ward, is very powerful, because it really does kind of keep the person that is representing that area in tune. They have to know what's going on, because they know that if their goal is to be reelected, they're going to have to make sure that they are following up and doing their things and ensuring that. And I mean, the counterbalance to that, is about, parochial kind of representation, where you're always lobbying just for your area, the new playground, the new sports field, the new, I want it in my ward. But then you have to look at, well, you're there also to make sure that the city is successful. So there is a balance there for sure.
No, I really like the accountability part of that conversation, where you get to talk to like your local representative quite literally. Right. Like if you were living in, like off Castle Street, right? You would know who that person would be, or those 2 people would be, whoever they would be, and you could talk to them about your issues as opposed to just going to city council at large, right?
Right.
And I think that's a really interesting point, because it does add that unique little wrinkle and quirk to the accountability part, because it allows you to put a name to a region instead of just the city. Right.
And I got to walk down my street. So I know my neighbors, and that's where I get a lot of feedback from, because I'm out walking my dog or whatever, and people will stop and to say, well, look, I really like this point, and you got to keep going with what you're doing. I know you haven't been successful with your votes, but having an eye on the ball there is something people appreciate. So I do think it's you create this relationship with your community that is very, very deep. And people know you, and they know they can contact you about what's going on, and you living in the area. And again, it's not necessary to live in the area. I didn't see any of that in the act, but to be basically
you don't even have to live in the city.
Well, you don't technically, no. And you got to wonder sometimes, like well, that's some.
And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying.
But to your point, though, I think that the living in the area and being one of the neighbors and understanding the issues in which your direct environment is in, it really helps. And you look at North Bay, you really do have some very distinct geography. You have some very distinct areas. You have some unique challenges in a number of areas. So, to having someone that is really in tune with that is quite powerful.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I wish I could go back in time when the amalgamation was taking place, because I'm sure they were discussing this, because they had areas that were losing a mayor and council that were specific to them.
You're referring to the amalgamation of like Whitfield, West Ferris, City of North Bay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe that's something that can be looked at as well. But North Bay is naturally a combination of neighborhoods.
Right.
Right. So we could pick the flies on some of the arguments against, pick the wings off the flies of arguments against. And one was, Councillor Chris Main noted that, for example, in Pinewood here, we have two highly elected councillors in Justine and Maggie. And possibly, if you only allowed one from this ward, you might lose one. But on the flip side of that, you could have all your councillors elected from Airport Hill and not representative of other parts of the city at large. So conversely,
is there something wrong with Airport Hill, or is it just using that as an example?
Just an example.
Okay. I was just checking.
As soon as he said, I was like, "Oh, we're gonna have to hold fire to that
Not
one."
that there's anything
well,
wrong
they
with
should
that.
use Trout Lake. All these guys on Trout Lake.
Yeah, you could say that too. Yeah.
But I did a little bit of homework.
You'd never have any of those septic systems investigated.
Right. I did a little bit of homework on population, because for me that was like an interesting like data line. And like I'm not a statistician or anything, but I'm pulling data from 2018's Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and I have here based on cities as labeled as cities, out of the potential some 40 number of cities. 28 of them had a ward system. 13 of them had at large, and then 3 had a combination of both. Right. And again, I'm just doing approximations. Some things have changed, maybe, because you mentioned, was it Aurora that recently changed?
Just recently.
Some of these might be a little bit different, so just use them with take them with a grain of salt. But cities that had a greater population of North Bay had the ward system equated to 22 cities. Right. Cities that had a lesser population of North Bay that had a ward was 8. So it kind of seems like we're kind of on that middle line.
Right.
Right. And so it was like, I mean, maybe this is like a different point of the conversation, but like it seems like, we kind of seem to be like the tippy toe on the teeter-totter here. It's like, well, do you have to be bigger than North Bay to have a ward system? Do you have to be smaller to have an at-large? Like, is that a conversation that's happening at City Hall?
Well, is that the conversation, or is it about effective governance? Yeah. So you can still have. I'm not saying you can't have effective governance with at-large, but looking at this and ensuring that you've got the option for people. And to me, having worked in municipalities that have had a ward system, I found they really function really, really well. In fact, when I was in Brampton and I was commissioner there, running the part of my portfolio was parks and recreation. It was so huge. I realigned all of the districts for the operations so that people would know that their parks foreman, their recreational supervisor were their point of contact. So all of the decisions and things to increase customer service. So a councillor wouldn't have to know, well, who do I call in parks or who do I whatever. But there's some the accountability line is so important. And if you could mirror that, I think you would get a lot more effective decision making because you would be in touch and you'd know who to contact. It really is about accountability.
I like your point about even the exercise of establishing a ward system brings a community together for consultation purposes. And you learn so much when people are engaged in something. They share with you stuff about their community, where they live, that the city needs to know, and they want that information. But as just sort of a point of discussion, you could actually achieve what we're looking for without implementing a ward electoral system. You could actually have a ward system established as part of the responsibilities as a councillor, where after they're elected, council picks people to represent specifically different community points, right? So you could have a portfolio rather than a ward election system that could actually address some of these problems, and it could be a practice towards a ward system.
Right, and you bring up an important point is that there's twofold here. There's the ward system, but also you could look at internally with the procedural bylaw. Mm-hmm. Like right now, you get to pick your spot based on where you finish in the election.
Exactly.
That doesn't necessarily mean you're the best person for that particular job. Mm-hmm. So in a lot of the examples to go to a ward system, one of the nice things is that council agrees on certain things. Council could say, well, Chris Main has someone with experience in a certain area, has tourism or whatever, would be really good at community services. They've got a lot of experience. And so basically council makes a decision not based on the sort of so-called popularity contest of an election, but based on the value you bring to that portfolio. And again, improve governance. So,
as long as there's a way to recognize and award something for being the top elected officials, right? Like to garner that many votes, you should have some type of reward. Not necessarily picking of the committee system.
I guess, you could be I'll equate that to hockey just for a second. So you've got kids that are really good tryout kids. And you go, I can't wait to have that kid on my team. Mm-hmm. Then they get on their team, and in the game situation, they're horrible.
Yeah, they don't have that game competitive nature.
But they're really good tryout kids. Mm-hmm. So not that it's that simplistic. And
I get your point.
But, that I think that...
garnering the most votes doesn't mean much except that you were very popular and you were in the right space at the right time.
Yeah, and
and
name recognition in at large is really quite beneficial because it's name recognition, and that's getting your name out there is oh, you were on before, oh yeah, okay, you didn't hurt me, so
And then that's one of the problems with the at-large electoral system is that you have to campaign in the entire city.
Correct.
And that means you need more money, which means money talks more in a large system than it does maybe in an award system where you can contain your expenses.
Correct, and it is. I think that would encourage more people because it's a bit of a daunting task when you've got to knock on doors from Ferris to the airport. You really got to understand, unless you're going to do some polling and understand where your support might be. But for some people, that it's not their work. It's just you're really trying to look at what your goal is in your neighborhood to represent people, to be their voice. So I think, personally, it would really help to bring candidates out of the wood because of the money situation and because of the geography that you're actually covering. So there's another, that sort of dismisses the idea that you'd lose out on good candidates because, there are really good people out there, but some of these barriers become just that, barriers.
Whether you're going on cross-province trips or you're taking your kids somewhere, doing sports activities, change is here. So why not change your vehicle? Our friends down at North Bay Toyota, Danny, has all the things you're going to possibly require for a new vehicle. Looking for something that's more fuel efficient, especially with gas being cheaper? All these options are great. Look for the RAV4 for being a more fuel efficient vehicle. Looking for a little more style? The Corolla Cross might be your car for you. If you're looking for something a little more rugged, especially on those nice Northern Ontario spring roads, can't go wrong with the Tacoma. There is something for everyone at Toyota. In extra space, a good example is the Highlander. This thing has so much room. I wish I had a little more room in my car. The Highlander seems to answer that need. Might have to go talk to Danny. But there's something for everyone at North Bay Toyota. With the season being so busy, it's time to get in and go to North Bay Toyota at 640 McEwen or online at northbaytoyota.com. Thank you for supporting local content, local stories, local voices at North Bay Echo.
Dear North Bay, as a single mom and full-time student, life can feel overwhelming and budgets are always tight. But one thing I never question is how deeply I care about my community. When I began volunteering at the North Bay Regional Health Centre, I saw firsthand how much the healthcare system means to people, especially when life takes an unexpected turn. It made me think, what if it was my child, my parent, or my friend that was in need of care? That's when I realized I wanted to do more, to be part of something bigger than myself. I joined the I Give monthly club because even a small monthly gift can have a meaningful impact, helping ensure everyone in our community has access to the care they need right here at home. If you believe in strong, local health care, I hope you'll join me. Sign up at nbrhcfoundation.ca or call 705-495-8125. It's simple and it matters. With gratitude, Kim Cosgrove.
Speaking of barriers, nice segue. Well done.
Okay.
So for me, I guess like one of the things would be like, I know it's not quite the right way, but like rezoning of wards, like if they were ever to become a system, right? And if someone was hesitant, not saying me, Dave, but if someone was hesitant about the ward system, it would be like, well, okay, well, if they're ever like rezoned and I was on like, the boundary of one to the other, at what point, like, what does that process look like? Like, does that go beyond city council? Would that be something that would be internal? Like,
well, I don't think a ward system precludes you from calling anybody. Yeah. Right. Like, I mean, if you have a better relationship with a councillor that has been there forever and you don't live in their ward, I don't think they're going to say, well, I can't take your call right now.
But I meant like in terms of voting representation.
No,
right?
well, voting representation is there are, to determine the wards, there's a lot of criteria. It's not just about population. It's about physical barriers. It's about ensuring voter parity. There's specialized areas. So you don't have to have the same number of people. I think that the number is plus or minus 15%. So if you look at some municipalities, some wards that are like downtown, maybe very, very small geographically, but they're intensely populated. So that's a ward. Whereas something that's maybe a bit more rural is a larger geographic area, but because the density is so different, it's just large. So, you do that. You look at things that are, marginal. If there's a marginalized community that lives in there, special needs, physical barriers, historic neighborhoods is another one you could use. So you would. It's not just there's not just one criteria you would use. It is complicated to ensure that, again, that there is the voters are really represented properly. Like you're sharing a common something.
Well, like some of the consulting reports that I've joked about over the years, we're doing it on a napkin here, and if we wanted to pretend like we could do it today with, what would be a sample of potential ward geography territories?
You took my question.
Eh?
Took my question.
Oh, is that your question?
It was one of them. I have like 1,000 here.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'll give you an example. Of course, we have Airport Graniteville, right?
Poor
The
airport.
escarpment.
Poor airport.
We have
You put them first intentionally.
Pinewood in Tebow Hill. Right?
Yeah.
We
Oh,
have Birchhaven in Trout Lake.
Yeah.
We have Central downtown, and
What about
we have
Graniteville?
West
And
Ferris.
what about
Graniteville would go with the escarpment, I would say.
Yeah, Graniteville and Birchhaven probably. Those they might go together.
Or Birchhaven would go with the Trout Lake. Like we're throwing spaghetti on the wall
Right.
here.
We absolutely. And again, you have to. That's why the study is important because you have to really understand what the local geography is from composition of you could look at incomes, you could look at natural barriers. You look at like to me the downtown is something that really needs some would. To me, that's a given that you'd have a downtown ward because they have such a unique, there's business down there. It's an important downtown waterfront. But I wouldn't want to throw spaghetti because there's could be things. I know there's things that I don't know about all these neighborhoods, and I'll tell you why. There's, I was involved with communities in bloom, and I'm in a lot of communities. Let me just talk about here. But it always astounded me that people that are longtime residents of a community, and again, not just here. And they find out about people and programs and things that are going on over there, and they have no idea that what's going. I never knew we did that. I didn't know we did. And so that dialogue in the community part, and bringing those to the surface about the uniqueness of these places is so important.
So I want to talk a bit about that study actually, in terms of how we get there.
Okay.
So I know this is probably like a bit more of like an open-ended question, but like, who would even conduct that kind of study? Like, who would be like the person? Because I'm assuming it would not be done with an internal group within city council. It would be done by a third party, right? I'd imagine.
Well, Wolf hired that Watson or
that's
whatever.
kind of what I'm referring to. Is that like you would hire
Just
some
2
sort of
years ago,
consulting agency,
You'd
or
probably pick up their study and overlap it and get pretty far along.
That's why I'm kind of bringing. I'll swing it back to you, but I think it's comparative because like Guelph isn't all that. I don't think dissimilar in terms of having like a large agricultural, environmental situation, being a city, being more central Ontario, but it's still being like a rural type city, right? Which is what North Bay is often kind of
Any university.
associated. Yeah, exactly.
My alma mater, by the way.
What's that?
My alma mater.
Oh, preaching to the choir. Same here. Shout out to Nipissing, not Guelph. But I mean, who would conduct that? Like, would there be anyone? I'm not saying you have to name anyone locally, but like, would that be something that you would, if that ever got approved, how would that start? Like, who would you look to? Like, what would be the entity?
Well, I mean, there'll be like municipalities are all linked together through either AMO or FNOM or something. So I mean, there is a good network of who does what, and to be fair, you would do a quote or you do it based on the value. You would do an RFP. These are the things you're looking for, and to Dave's point, you could kind of R&D them, rip off and duplicate, sort of some of those things in order to put something that's concrete, so it's not as vanilla as
you don't have
whatever.
to start from scratch.
Right.
Yeah.
You
you direct the study towards what you think would be important for this community.
And the reality is because of it's really in terms of an RFP, it's a low value RFP. you wouldn't have to go through the council and all that kind of thing. I would say that you'd want to have a little subcommittee of council, make it not like the committee of the committee of the committee, but something to maybe it's just the chairs of all the three major divisions, and they sit down. What would you want to do? What would you be looking for as a community consultation or to establish a very effective ward system review? So again, bringing the team together, talking to them, using the information that you can gather from the exercise with some of the other municipalities or organizations, associations that you belong to, and then you put something together. But again, my opinion, North Bay is not known for its nimbleness and the ability to turn things around quickly. And there's lots and lots of examples of that.
You mentioned that somebody was going to quarterback this issue from the candidates that were elected. Who are you talking about?
Well, what I've read was Peter Cherko had said that he was going to champion this, but he had done some research and he was satisfied with the research and was no longer in support of it. So I don't know what he read or what he saw, or I know what I have. You are allowed to change your mind. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, evidence-based decision-making is, can lead to, but, I would say you would offer, some sort of, explanation or some sort of logic as to, this doesn't benefit the taxpayers or this because of, there would be some rationale of sorts as to why, and whether he chooses to share it or not. Well, that would be his. That's up to him. Nobody can force him to do it. But certainly, the public, in my mind, is owed a study to say, as you have said, it's come up every year. Here are the pros and cons of this type of relationship with the community. Should we do it or not? And then, there's lots of opportunity for community engagement, and you measure all that.
And again, I think I don't look at budgets for city council. I'm starting to do more of it. In terms of looking at what that looks like, but just entertaining the idea. It's not saying this episode or this stance in particular is pro ward or other, but for me, it's well, why can't we look at it?
Right.
And I think it doesn't have to be one or the other. We talked about hybrid too, right? We could talk about what that looks like.
Right. As I said, there are so many options that would have been available to us. And my personal opinion would be that we would reduce the size of council. That would be my personal, because I think that you get a close team that works together, and you can but you've got the benefit of your constituents holding your feet to your fire. Right. So, you're going to work as a team, but understand that there are people that are going to be watching what you're doing and measuring how you respond to things and how are you out there just cutting ribbons, or are you actually, getting in there and working and making decisions and trying to help people out. So, there's a good, healthy tension there with the ward system.
Interesting. So 8. You think we should go down to 8? Is that the magic number for North Bay?
I would say, I would say you'd probably want to go down to 7.
7?
Yeah, including the mayor.
So from 11
so 6
to 7.
and 1.
Yep.
Wow.
That's what I would say.
Why?
I would go 5 wards and a mayor and a deputy mayor.
So elect specifically a deputy mayor.
That, yeah. Or the way some municipalities do it is that they're elected by the council. So that would mean there would be 6 wards, and then you elect a deputy mayor from the group, or the mayor can appoint a deputy mayor based on, the wards. They say, no, they, pull her, and I anoint you to be the deputy mayor with your, superpowers as strong mayor powers or whatever. But it's always better to have a process in place, in my mind, that you have to build consensus around decision making. So having the 6 wards, you have the mayor elected at large, which is one of the requirements, and then the group comes together to choose. And again, you would extend that to things like important committees. So you'd really why would you people make a case for why you'd want to be the chair of community services or whoever, and I think that's really valuable exercise to go through.
Would the pay change for the 6 if they're taking on, I would think, a little bit heavier workload?
Well, no, I don't see. I mean, there's some. They get paid right now you get extra if you're on DSAP, for example, and there's nothing that says we can't have some community representation on some of these other boards. Like, there are people that want to be involved in boards. They don't necessarily. It was a change years ago, I think with Vic Fidelli, where they, the councillors were appointed and they didn't, they don't pay them for them, and they might have got an extra stipend. Maybe they gave them. I don't know the history of that, but we could really open things up and say, your core business here or your work is related to governance of the city. And if we want to smatter some of the council members, if they get first dibs on sitting on health unit or sitting on DSAP, or make it something that you strongly believe in. And if you want to elect people from the community at large, you have an opportunity to do that as well. So again, it's procedural. In the back part of this is a procedural change.
So let me get this straight. You would council would appoint somebody to represent them on a committee?
Correct.
Okay.
Like not necessarily the city ones, like not for community services and those kind of things, but what they used to, the ABCs, for example. I mean, it could be you put somebody who's really healthcare oriented. You put them. They put their name forward. They put in a CV in about why they want to be involved in the health unit, what they bring to the health unit, and you go, hey, they'd be a great. History has been some of these appointees from council have gone to these ABCs in order to watch the budget. Not that they're necessarily experts in or married to that kind of environment or that topic, as it were. But I think it was really about, we're going to make sure they keep their budget in check, before they levy. Why don't we bring some people that have some, experience in some of these areas as board members, and there you go. You kind of grow your pool for future councillors.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I'm imagining now. I'm imagining now. I'm being comical. It's like that sounds like a really interesting way of kind of associating portfolios and assignments to people. But I can imagine the comment sections of an article that would outline that would be a fire, just because people will be like, oh, that's not the person I voted for, but it's still a staffer. Like, do you see there be any pushback on that?
Well, no, I mean, I would say that the
not that that's necessarily a metric for gauging public interest, a comment section or anything, but I'm just suggesting.
I think it would be a wise business move, because you put people there that have some experience and understanding of the issue that are sitting on these boards. Like, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying I get elected and now I'm not going to do anything. But your core business here is to look after the business of the city. So you'd have to design some metrics for that. How much you want to grow? What's your budget look like? What are some of the metrics around customer service? So you're driving the policies that guide staff in that direction. That doesn't preclude you from sitting on these committees. And for me, I really enjoy the health unit. I think that they do a great job, and it's a very democratic. We elect the chair. We elect, it's not appointed that way. It's DIA is another good one. So Nipissing University, again, it's a very good mix of people and a lot of inclusion. So I think that there is certainly, people would, if you're elected, you would still opt to do these committees.
I think that covers a lot of my questions. For me, it was just a lot of educating. I already can tell what we're going to imagine the poll is going to be in our Echo Essential newsletter in terms of, what our readers might think or what our commenters might think. Obviously, feel free to comment in the comment section, but it's fascinating because it's it's not like just one or the other thing. It could be a unique beast.
Well, it's a unique opportunity to engage and revitalize constituency involvement in municipal politics, and that is needed.
Yes,
because no matter how you want to score council, There's no way to do it right now,
No.
right? There's no way to really sort of see if somebody's actually doing a good job because his metrics aren't really available in sort of that kind of report. So there needs to be a little bit of a change, and change isn't a bad thing. The city is going to grow eventually. It's going to grow exponentially, no doubt. It's a strong location regionally, and there's more coming.
Right.
So it's growing. So the population issue is going to be less of a cutoff. North Bay is going to enter that area where it's going to have to look at how it's going to handle that. And a ward system would be interesting, a hybrid, I believe, for this area. An interesting way to be prepared for that growth.
Right. Well, and you talk about growth, but it's also challenges. You know, like we've got to hunker down. I mean, we haven't really felt the effects. You know, we felt it, but not as hard as we probably will feel it on tariffs and things that are gone, you know, south of here. So being able to have a tight group that's going to be able to think through some of those things and be able to help local businesses survive, you know, you know, what could we be doing? So it's, you know, I think it really is, I think it's a good way to have a healthy tension where there's much more accountability because you're going to have to check in with your group as well on your ward, you know, how are we doing? And you're not going to please everybody there either. So, you know, but having a rationale or having some reasons why and be able to explain because a lot of times people say, oh, why didn't you vote that way? Or why, well, then when you sit down and explain, well, did you understand that some of these things would happen if I voted this way? And these are some of the things, these are the consequences. Oh, I didn't really know that. So, but again, that's why it's, you know, evidence-based decision-making is always, you know, in my mind, safer. Because you can point to some very tangible evidence.
We'd see a lot of votes that were 6-1 then.
If I were still there, you mean?
If you were still there.
That's right, yeah. You covered that ground last time I was here.
But
I was going to get a T-shirt, 922.
There you go.
Jeez. Jamie, thanks for coming in today. I really appreciate it.
All right, thanks for having me.
You know, it was good to have you in, chat about it, and you know, and talk some ideas, and just kind of see what the temperature was like on that.
Okay,
so thank you.
How do you feel now?
I feel informed. I don't know if I have an opinion yet, but you know what? I have more of an opinion than I did before, I think, and I think I'd be. It sounds like I have a fluff opinion. It's probably because I do. I don't.
Well, what we have to work on is you have to.
We, as in you and I.
What we have to work on for you is to have you fully engage with the community that you're in municipally. You need to do that. I think that would be an important part. You know?
I love my city, but like getting to know more. And I think a lot of people.
We need 30-year-olds like you.
Like,
yes.
You love bringing up my age.
Well, it's half mine. We need you to actually care and get involved. And this might be a way to do it.
Absolutely. And I think there's an initiative for, you know, my generation.
I include Ben in this discussion.
Oh, I mean, Ben loves to be included. But I think there is an opportunity for our generation to take that initiative, right?
Yeah.
To learn more.
Yeah.
Because like we talk about the growth of the city of North Bay. And there is growth. There is potential, right? We talk about being advantageously positioned in the province and growth avenues and having, post-secondary opportunities. There is growth there. I just think it's a matter of like connecting with that base. Because I find like either it's through disinterest or they're busy trying to do other stuff, like afford a house or work 3 different jobs. They just probably deprioritize it as an issue, right? Not to say they don't care. They just care about other things more, right? And so it might affect them eventually. It's just not a pressing thing for them right now.
Well, it's not impacting them directly right at this moment.
Yeah.
And they've got other priorities. I would agree with you. It was very interesting to fly over as I just came back from, down south and, seeing the
Bahamas, you can say it.
Bahamas. Okay. And you get flying over the GTA, and the number of cricket fields is astounding.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking down, like usually, you'd see a lot of baseball fields. And
how's our $2 million cricket field going?
Don't know.
Okay.
But which I guess that's a lit one because I can't see grading and putting a.
Well, they're getting lots of material. Have you been down to the arena construction site?
Ouch. I didn't even go with the sod turning. I
noticed. I took video. What?
I'm just observing my my engaged co-host engage in the show. But no, you're right. I think like just seeing how population changes and areas change.
Yeah,
right.
The rollover isn't it? It is really, and we'd be fooling ourselves. We didn't think some of those trends are going to be hitting North Bay.
Yeah.
In this growth. You don't have to be a rocket science to see that things in the world are changing.
Yeah,
and so we've got to be able to be nimble enough and be prepared to change or even predict and plan for those changes.
Right on.
Yeah, but I think we're all doing the right thing by listening to the Echo Essentials podcast and getting an informed opinion and learning a bit more.
Right,
and that's what we did today. So Jamie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you for tuning in for the Echo Essentials podcast.
I'm Dave Dale.
And I'm Chris Pekarsky. I do it every single time. Chris Pekarsky. Thank you, guys. If you get a chance, make sure to like, comment, share. Feel free to share us your opinions about the ward system, the hybrid, at large, whatever have you. And thanks for tuning in today. Hey, North Bay. It's time to celebrate. The city is turning 100, and Homewood Suites by Hilton North Bay invites you to the party. Be at home in our spacious suites, each featuring a kitchen. Yeah, a real kitchen. Also, enjoy our comfy living spaces and brand new fitness gear so you can keep feeling great while staying on budget. Planning a big bash or business event? We've got the perfect meeting spaces right here on site. Plus, with our partnerships at The Grand and Stock Transportation, your guests and delegates are in great hands. Want to know the best part? We're right beside the beautiful Cape Paceway, steps to North Bay's lively waterfront, and moments from downtown's shopping, dining, and entertainment. Celebrate the Centennial with us all year long with an exclusive discount. Just use the code CENTENNIAL when booking your stay. Be at home with Homewood Suites by Hilton North Bay. Join the party today at 495 Oak Street West or call us at 705-495-3000.